Hey everyone, this is Leatherass with DragTheBar.com. This is my first video for DragTheBar.com, and I'm really excited to be a part of this incredible training site. And I'm here today playing two tables of 3-6 no limit, 6 max on full tilt poker. And today I'm going to talk about how to beat 3-6 no limit, 6 max specifically. However, the advice that I'm giving are mostly concepts that would apply to most limits, and they're poker concepts that you can apply to your game no matter where you play or what limits you play. So with that in mind, we're just kind of getting started here. I've played a couple of hands. Nothing too major has happened to really speak of. We definitely have some weaker opponents at the table, which is always a good thing. I have them marked in a green. Well, they allow you to basically mark people depending on what kind of reads you picked up on them through the color coding here. And so I've marked each of the weaker opponents that I can identify at this point with the green mark. So on table 1, on the left here is Mozart, and he appears to be a weaker player. And Ratchagammon on table 2 and Sauce 10 on table 2 appear to be the targets here. It's very important that if you are going to play poker, that you identify weaker players at the table that you can make money off of. One thing that I stress heavily in my book, Treat Your Poker Like a Business, is that you're not going to have a very successful business if there's no profit involved with what you're playing, with the game that you're playing. So if you're playing a table with all players of equal ability, you're actually not only are you not making money, you're losing money, because you're paying rake in basically a neutral expectation environment. So what you really want first and foremost are weaker players. I liken playing poker with all people who are as good or better than you, or for argument's sake, all as good as you, and paying a 5% rake for the privilege, as buying a apple for $1 and selling it for 95 cents. You wouldn't have a very successful business if you were a grocery store owner, for example, and you bought your products for $1 and sold them for 95 cents. It just doesn't make sense. And so one thing that I do when I play poker, and even when I make videos, it doesn't really matter what I'm doing. If I'm going to play poker, I'm going to make sure that there's an edge involved. And sometimes that might mean swallowing your pride a little bit. There might be a bunch of players who you kind of feel like you're better than, and you want to kind of get in there and show them who's boss and all that stuff. And that stuff's great, for maybe your ego from time to time, when you can sit with a game a bunch of tough players and come out ahead and all. But really, your ego is not gonna pay the bills. What's gonna pay the bills is cash in your wallet. So it's really important that you make sure that you're padding your wallet. You might play a table full of equal opponents and come out ahead 5 times in a row, but that doesn't mean that you're actually making money, because that money is just going to be cycled around in the long run as the luck evens out. So anyway, a really important concept overall. So here with the 3-6 suited on table 1, I raised. I have a pretty aggressive opponent in the blind, and I feel like he's very likely to call or 3-bet me, and so he did call. And here's a pretty dry flop, and so we're going to start off by making a continuation bet here, and we'll kind of see what he does. So we get called, and we still don't have anything at this point. We've got 6 high. We do not have a good bluffing card on the turn. He could potentially be slow playing an 8. In all likelihood, he has some hand like 10-9, Jack 10, pocket 6s, pocket 5s, some pocket pair like that. I'm not confident that really any of those hands fold at this point in the hand, and so I'm just going to be inclined to check back and and go ahead and kind of give up on this pot. I just don't see, you know, obviously if he has an 8, he's just trying to trap me, and if he has any other hands that I've identified as being in his range, then, you know, I just don't see him folding with a 4 on the turn. So with that, I'm just going to go ahead and give up the pot, and it, you know, it might seem a little weak to some that and they're not firing a second or third barrel. There are certainly opponents out there that you know that they're not going to call down all 3 streets of the pair of 10s. With this particular opponent, I'm you know, he's a better player. He's more likely to go to showdown. He's more likely to give less credit to someone such as myself, and so I went ahead and kind of showed that respect back and just gave up the pot. So here with the pocket 6s, I don't see a whole lot of reason to make a very large bet. I'm going to make a bet of, well, I'll probably go like 18, a little under half pot, and I just don't see why I would need to make a large bet into a deep stack on a dry flop. So he should let us know if he has a hand, and I believe that he most likely does. So here with the ace queen, I wish I knew a lot more about this opponent. I'm going to go ahead and actually make what may seem to be like a bit of a tightish fold with the ace queen. There's certainly a number of players, you know, where that would be a pretty big leak to just give up ace queen that quickly. However, with this particular opponent, I just don't have enough of a read on him yet, and I haven't seen him be aggressive. I did observe the table for 5 or 10 minutes before I sat down, and it's the first time I've seen him 3-bet. I did raise from first position at this limit, and so with all that in mind, I just decided to make a somewhat tight fold, and kind of live to fight another day. So that is by no means hard and fast rule right in that spot. I would not fault anyone for taking a variety of different lines in that spot. I just kind of tend to like to play it a little closer to the vest until I gather some more information about my opponents. So there with the pocket 10s, pretty standard 3-bet against a player that's pretty aggressive. You get a blind battle against the regulars. Pocket 10s is plenty of hand. It's sort of towards the bottomish of the range, but it's plenty of hand to play for stacks with. And so if you had a 4-bet me, I would have shoved. As it is, I just made a continuation bet and kind of, you know, continue to kind of put him to the test. There's just not a whole lot of good options. You know, maybe if I have pocket kings there and I 3-bet and the flop comes like that, maybe I check call 3 streets, and just knowing that there's really no scare cards. If it was an ace 3 flop with no flush draws or anything, you could take a hand like pocket kings pretty easily and just kind of check call down and try to induce bluffs, and just hope he obviously doesn't flop 3 aces on you, because, you know, you don't need to protect your hand in that pot. There's no scary cards. So you know, there's a variety of different ways you can play it. I prefer to just, you know, just play it a little more straightforward there, and just kind of after I 3-bet pre-flop, just follow up with a continuation bet and make him put a significant chunk of his stack in there if he's going to bluff me off of a hand. It's not a good spot for him to try and bluff. You know, I've represented a lot of hands that are probably not going to just fold to a flop raise on that flop, and so, you know, he's just, it's not a good spot for him. So I figured I could just play it straightforward, and he'd probably only raise me if he had 3 aces, or he'd probably only keep putting money in with 3 aces. And so here with the king 5, he is kind of a weak-ish opponent. I don't have him marked as a total fish, but I have played with this guy quite a bit. He's not strong. I'm going to call in position with king 5 offsuit. And this is a type of flop where I believe he does play a little more straightforward. So I was going to just bluff raise that flop and kind of make him have a queen or a flush draw, which is unlikely for him now that he checked. I'll probably just take a stab and hope to pick it up. I really don't know what this means. All I know is when I'm checked 2, it's typically a lot of times guys are giving up, and so I just make a bet. He check raised me. You know, he could apply the same logic where he's making me have a queen or a flush draw. Against guys that I have a more history with, I'll float the flop here and the turn and just make them shove me all in on the river if they're going to win the pot. If they check the river, then I'll shove the river. And so that would be a typical line I would take against an opponent who is likely just full of crap, for lack of a better term. So this opponent sits down here just to my right with $320.30. I don't know of a good player who just randomly buys in for a random amount with change involved and all that stuff, so I'm going to instantly mark him as a poor player. I believe that that's I'm going to be correct as close to a 100% of the time as possible. In fact, if he posts here, that would have been the nail in the coffin, but he didn't. So anyway, I'm going to start off here. I'm going to make it 18. You can make it 21, 15, 12. You know, it depends on the type of hand you want, the type of players that are in the blinds. If there's short stackers in the blinds, you're going to want to make it less. If you're inclined to call 3-bets with your hand, you may not want to make it too big, because then when the guy raises you back, you're going to have a lot of money to call, and you'd like to keep the pot a little bit cheaper. You could also, there are a lot of guys that like to 3-bet min raises, so you want to take all your aces and kings against those guys and make sure to min raise to induce action. There's lots of little tricks out there and lots of little, lots of logic associated with why you would make a pre-flop raise a certain size. I will take times of the day where I will just only re-raise for like an hour, and I'll only make it like 3x for an hour and only make it 4x for an hour, or just do stuff like that. And I don't want to ever, I'm giving you situations where it can make sense to adjust your raise size pre-flop. However, I would never advocate actually following that to a T, because I mean, at some point, if you play enough with somebody, you've basically just told them what you had pre-flop. If you become too predictable with that stuff. So in any event, it's like any advice you probably could ever get in life, truthfully, is you can probably always overdo things if you're not careful. So anyway, a little bit of a chatterbox today. I don't think I've shut up for this entire video, so I might just take a slight breather here for a few minutes and slow down the pace a little bit. There was probably a lot of information to go over, but that is always good for kind of pausing and rewinding and doing stuff like that, and developing a lot of notes for when you do play poker. In fact, as I tell you I'm going to slow it down, that reminds me of a good piece of advice. And as you are taking these videos, you can watch videos, and there are some people who watch videos as if they're just like putting in their time, like, oh, I should study, like it's a homework assignment or something, and like, oh, I should study X hours a day, and try to be a successful poker player, blah blah blah. And the reality is that you only kind of get out of things what you really put into it. You can't cheat yourself. In poker, you're your own boss, and there's no one looking. You can breeze through a video and not really pay close attention and feel like you put in your time studying, but that's not really what's going to make you a good player. You got to actually put in the time, and if it's a coach that you're watching that you look up to as someone who you would like to become as profitable as, then hang on every word he's saying. I mean, I'm not just saying that because I'm a coach now and like telling you, oh, you should hang on every word I'm saying, but I'll tell you one thing, I got where I am because I hung on every word of coaches that I watched at training sites over the years. So it's really, really, really important to take really diligent notes, and try not to implement everything that somebody might be saying overnight. Work on one or two things at a time, take it slow. Here with the Queen 5, I don't really want to get blown off my hand here. I'm trying to just kind of keep the pot a little bit smaller. I have a good bluff catching situation. I don't want just random jacks and random hands just kind of raising me on the flop and blowing me off the hand. So the ace is not the best card. And I'm going to go ahead and 3-bet here at the king queen. And I don't really know what he has, but I feel like he wants to take the showdown, like he has like a 10 or something. So here at the king queen, I flop 2 overs in a straight draw. I'm just going to bet, and if he shoves, I'm going all in with him, or I'm calling. So I'm going to make a weak lead bet here with the queen 5 and try to get him to call with that 10. It's better than checking and getting nothing. And so well, I'll just put the money in here with the king queen. He had a 9, yeah. So I figured if he was checking, like if he had nothing, he would have taken a stab at it. And since he actually, yeah, we missed our draw there, unfortunately. So lost that pot. But yeah, I figured he would have bluffed if he'd had nothing. But since he was checking, it led me to believe he was like, he had some weak made hand he was just trying to get a showdown with. So I kind of made a small bet to kind of like, for lack of a better term, give him an offer he can't refuse. And you know, it's just a good way to get an extra $12 as opposed to just checking and kind of fearing that he has the ace or whatever. If he does have the ace, he probably wakes up on the river and value bets it, and then you're gonna have to pay off because you can't just check like second pair the whole way and just give up if he makes any bet. That's far too weak and is not a good recommended play. And so this is your way to kind of extract a little bit of value from a hand that might call like a pair of 9s or 10s. But also, if he does have an ace and he was going to value bet it, he probably would have value bet it like $30. Instead, you made it 12 and he just calls, and so you kind of got off cheaply. You could have would have maybe spent 30 on the river. Instead, you spent less. Now, that's kind of the logic. And again, I don't think he's on air there, and you're like missing out on picking off a bluff, because I think air would have bet at some other point in the hand. So here at the king queen, we'll fold. Little disappointing to lose that hand. It was just basically a total cooler with the king queen. You know, a 3-bet there is reasonably standard. I mean, you could call, but you know, nobody's going to fault you for re-raising there pre-flop. And then I flopped 2 overs in a straight draw, and there was really no choice but to just kind of try and take down the pot right away, first of all, and then if he raises you, like, I mean, shoot, you could, you know, you can't fold. You've got 2 overs in open end straight draw, and so that was sort of the top end of his range, was pocket jacks there. I mean, it's basically about the best hand he could have had. And so, you know, that just is what it is. That's what happens in poker, and you just can't beat yourself up over it. Here at the ace-9, I'll go ahead and make a raise. And we'll go ahead and pot it up. We get flatted. Very likely to get squeezed in those blinds, but we don't. We have 2 kind of aggressive blinds there. And the flop here, I'll just bet 32. It should be a half decent flop for continuation betting. Any paired board is usually okay. And really instantly called. So that really leads me to believe that he has an 8. I would think a flush draw would have had a little more of a decision. And so I'm going to just put the screws to him and try to get him to. I'm committed to 3 barrels here right now. Just because he's a weaker player, but it's going to be really tough for him to call 3 streets with just an 8. And obviously on the turn it's just a semi-bluff, but if I miss, you know, now that he's timing down, yeah, that definitely leads me to believe that he has an 8 and he just really hated that position. So yeah, that was, once you see a guy instantly call like that on a board like that, it's very obvious like he has an 8. Like he has an 8 every time when he does that, because, you know, again, you can't make a decision that quickly with just a flush draw. Like, he would have at least thought about it. I mean, obviously anything's possible. Like, he might just quickly call the flush draw, but it's kind of a timing tell, and it's something that it's a pretty reliable timing tell. Like in that spot, I mean, he just, from my experience, he just has an 8 a lot. So, and if he has a flush draw, that's fine because I have ace high, and that's better. I mean, it has to be better than any flush draw he has, unless it's like an ace, queen of hearts or something, which is very unlikely. So, as long as the heart doesn't hit, I mean, I'll get him to fold, or I'll win the pot somehow. But you got to just keep betting there. That's one little thing that 7 million hands of poker earns you there, and that's the right to just kind of say, "Hey, trust me." There, he has an 8. You play 7 million hands. You've seen it all at that point, and it's just very unlikely that he had anything less than or that he had anything other than an 8. Here with the ace queen, I'm going to go ahead and just raise it up here. Make it 3 times this time. Not really important either way. And take down the blinds. So it'd be nice to sneak in there and win a good pot before this is done, and try to get unstuck. It's been one of those sessions where without showdown I'm doing real good. I've made some good bluffs and continuation bets and stuff like that, and but when we did go to showdown that one time, I got crushed. So in any event, we'll just keep chipping away at it, and you never know when the next big pot's going to come up. So far, looking at my numbers, I'm a 24-24 on the left and a 36-33 on the right, so definitely playing more aggressive than usual. I'm probably more like a 25-22 right in there. I've recently, in the last several months, amped up my the number of hands that I play pre-flop, and so I was a little bit more of like a 21-18 player. Now I'm like a 25-22. So I've added about 4 points on there, and been slightly 4 points on my pre-flop raise, 3 points onto my my VPIP, which is voluntarily put money in the pot percentage. And so what that means is I've obviously added a few more hands that I 3-bet, because I'm playing only 3% more of the pots, but I'm raising 4% more. So yeah, so clearly I must be 3-betting a little bit more. Ace-8 suited here. A lot of people call in these spots. My data just shows that it's just not a good idea, so I'm just going to fold here. And here at the King-3, we're going to start to hunt for another table here, because it looks like we're about out of commission here on this table. So a little unfortunate, and that's kind of the risk you take making a live video. We may actually, well, I'm kind of scanning the lobby here, doing what I can. Wow, that's a heck of a raise there, 60. So I'm going to make it 18 here with the 6-7. So we'll just play. At least we got 3-handed. It looks like we're filling back up a little bit, so at least it's a game right now. And I'll continue to kind of scan the lobbies and make sure that I find some better action here. And here with the 7s, unlikely he has something on that board. He is a shorter stack, which means your bet sizes do not need to be as deep to be equally as threatening. And so I just chose to make basically no more than a half pot size bet there. And we're definitely at a real risk of losing this table completely now. And so I'm going to add a table here, and I'm going to call here with the 9-6 suited in position. Flop top pair. And I don't really know. It's not a great board for, you know, it can just get nasty on the turn. So I'm going to make a decision right here to just play for stacks. You know, I have top pair. It's a blind battle. And I'm going to raise it, and if he shoves, I'm going to call. Here at the fours, not a great spot really on the flop here. I mean, you know, 3-betting is, or 4-betting is an option, but I don't really think you can call. He did make it rather, not really large, but a little bit on the large size. So I'm just gonna kind of give him credit there. Here at the king 5, I'm gonna I'll go ahead and make a small re-raise. Try and steal it, but also, you know, I can maybe win it with a continuation bet. So again, smaller bets, about half pot. He quickly calls, and the ace came on the turn. I'm just going to shove them all in, and just as like a bluff card. Wow, I actually got it in good, and we won. So that's cool. I'm glad I stayed, obviously. And Andrew Song here, he raised me. I'm just going to go ahead and 3-bet 8-9 suited in position. Don't have to, can call. Really doesn't make a ton of difference. But I'm not folding. And so here's our additional table, so we're back in business. As I preach the importance of game selection, here we are in a situation where the game on the right is not as strong as I would like. I do have edge on both of these players, so I can stay. However, it's not the amount of edge I wanted, but for continuity purposes of the video, and also, you know, this isn't. I'm not trying to make money here. I'm trying to teach you guys, so I can pass on occasion here from what's best in terms of expectation. Just get you guys some of the best coaching I can. Here, you know, squeeze or a fold is fine. I opted to fold there. I'm not a huge fan of doing it with a hand like Ace-10. I prefer maybe to squeeze with a hand that you know, maybe has some more implied odds, or a hand that is just total junk. You know, that like a deuce-9 offsuit or something like that. That you know, maybe we could get a little bit of value out of by squeezing it every once in a while. So this guy had pre-marked, the guy that just sat on table 2, JD something. We have him pre-marked from something else, so we'll stick with that read until proven otherwise. And here at the Queen 6, we get min raised. You know, I'll just call. I mean, it's min raise. You know, they just kind of lack of better options a little bit. You could 3-bet him. I mean, you could fold. Seems like a reasonable enough hand to put a call in, so we're going to do that. And we'll probably just, there's not a whole ton we can represent, and I just don't see a whole lot of, you know, it's not like we're starting a heads-up match where there'd be a whole lot of meta game and, you know, and you know, just all that's kind of involved with heads-up, which is a complex game. I'm just going to go ahead and kind of give him credit. If we were starting a session, you know, together where I was playing him heads up, I might choose a little bit of a different option there. It's hard to say. I don't really know that my read here is accurate, however, on JD. On this JD guy, his stats look pretty good, and he sat full stacked, which is usually an indicator pretty darn good player. So yeah, and he had it on auto reload. That's another sign that you can tell if a guy has his settings on Full Tilt Poker or Poker Stars to where it automatically reloads you back to a full stack. It's almost invariably a professional poker player. You know, good players want to play with full stacks, so. I think I've actually located a 5-10 table, and we will move on to that one. So I get re-raised here, and you know, a lot of guys, they like to start at the new table and be aggressive. I'm going to pump him back here and hope to get a fold. I'm going to have to fold if he shoves all in. Alright, so that was good. We took it down there, fortunately. And I'll play another orbit here just to just until I can lock down another game elsewhere. And here I'm going to go ahead and squeeze the ace-jack suited. That's really the best option, and I'm going to go ahead and fold the king-9 suited. You know, same thing. You could take a stand and re-raise, but you know, you don't have to. So we get floated. A lot of times this is like pocket 9s, pocket 8s, king, queen, stuff like that. No hand that I can fold on that flop. That's way too good of a flop to really do anything with. One thing that I can consider doing, in fact I will do, is I will just go for a check raise. I believe he's aggressive enough that he will likely bet. The board looks a little draw heavy, so he might suspect that I gave up, which I do on draw heavy boards from time to time. So I'm going to hope that he takes a little stab at the pot and check raise, and I feel like that's my best chance of him making a hero call with a hand like pocket 9s, pocket 10s, stuff like that. And he just open shove. That's really weird. I don't know. I mean, I'm not gonna fold. Yeah, I'm not gonna fold. Jack 10. All right, so we got a stack there. I don't know what was going through his head, but I will definitely go back and stick with my original read. He might be one of the few poker players to have it on auto reload who is not a strong poker player. I don't think that that's, unless it was a misclick, which is possible, which is certainly possible. I've done it too myself, or maybe he tried some, you know, cockeyed play that he thought would be good. I don't know exactly, but I do know that I would not teach that play. Chances are all the money was going in on that flop. It's just, you know, in these kind of high stakes games, that might seem like that would be a little spewy for him to like actually be willing to stack off there with top pair and a 3-bet pot. But these days the games are so aggressive, I wouldn't fault him, because I'll, you know, single and double barrel him with no hand there. And sometimes 3-barrel him all in with no hand, if he would have just continued to call. Here with the Jack 5 suited, he's so short, I can either shove or I can just check. I don't like raising. I actually prefer to shove because I just don't think they call very often. Well, he called there. Let's get lucky. So far, so good. Oh, river. Well, you know, I probably deserve it. I do stand by the play, though. I do that quite often, and they pretty much they tend to fold there. And when I mean tend to fold, I don't mean like 60% of the time. Like, I mean 95% of the time. And when you get called, you still have equity. It's not like I was dead in that pot. It wasn't like I had deuce 8 and the guy had pocket aces or something. Like that was. I still had some decent equity. I don't know what it is, but it might be 40% or something, 35, 38%. I don't know what it is exactly. One thing that I would be happy to encourage you guys to do is to ask me questions in the forums, in the coaching video threads pertaining to this video. I'm going to be very active in the threads, and I look forward to answering all your questions. I mean, that's a big part of the value of coaching videos, is that you get to interact with those making videos, as opposed to a different form of coaching where you're presented the information, like if you were to buy a DVD or something, and it can certainly, there's tons of DVDs that are and books, etc., that are really good for you to buy. However, it is still a unique thing about poker coaching videos, is that you can actually watch basically exactly what we did at the table, and I obviously have a strong vested interest playing $1,000 pots here to give my best decision. Not that I would give anything less than my best commentary and my best decisions, even if I was playing micro stakes, but in any event, it's quite obvious that the coaches have every intention to make great videos and give you guys great advice, and so you have that opportunity to watch actually what's going on at the table for real money, and then get to talk to a pro about that. I mean, if you think about, we kind of take that for granted now here in the coaching market, but or in this era of poker training and poker coaching. But man, if you ask a guy, who maybe lived in Las Vegas back in 1985, what he would have paid for the secrets of people who were winning millions of dollars playing poker, it would have been, I mean, it would have been obviously pretty incredible for that person to have that, and to get the opportunity to do it for basically the cost of a meal for you and a friend at a fast food joint. That's a pretty darn special thing, and so that's one thing that I've been really stoked about once I discovered training sites, when I was grinding small stakes limit Holdem. I'd gotten myself to the point where I could eke out a living, and this was in the era of when there was a lot of low-lying fruit in this game, where there was, people, it was kind of before the era of poker coaching and poker training, and it being on television and all these sorts of things that have helped improve poker players' games. And I remember when poker training sites first came on board, and I was like, you have got to be kidding me. Like, why would they give away their information for so cheap? It didn't make sense to me. And so I was just blown away. And so, I mean, I instantly joined every training site that popped up to try and get it. And it's the best decision I ever made. I mean, I've been able to have a really nice career out of poker. And I'm a product of this system, is what I'm trying to say. This poker coaching system. And so I mean, I can't help but believe in it with all my heart, because I saw it work for me. I really believe that DragTheBar.com and a lot of hard work, which is, there's no shortcuts. You got to put in hard work. Those two things, there's nothing stopping you if you have those two ingredients, and you have every tool available to you to give you every possible chance for success. The rest is kind of up to you. It doesn't mean it's easy, but you have the tools to do it. And so it's great, because poker coaching has been a nice way for me to give back and get the rewarding experience of seeing people over the years. And I've made hundreds of videos now at this point, and helped out literally thousands of people in the forums and posts, and it's just been such a rewarding experience to be able to guys give me updates on their careers, and they tell me how they're doing. And sure, I haven't met these people, but I mean, I don't need to. I mean, everybody's writes me and messages me is important to me, and every member of DragTheBar.com or anybody that is seeking advice from me. I'm happy to give them time. I've done it for a long time, and it's just something that as someone who has been very fortunate, I feel an obligation to do. So in any event, in a roundabout way, what I'm trying to say is I'm here at your disposal, and feel free to utilize that. So with the Queen 10, I isolated the limper. I bet the flop with the open-ended straight draw, and he quickly called. I'm going to actually just try and get him off his hand here, and hopefully he just has a jack, and if he check shoves, I'll have to call with my draw. I'll be priced in at that point. And luckily he folded there. So a lot of people, they just, they're like, oh, maybe I'll just check and I'll hope to hit on the river. And I mean, it's not that that's a terrible play, but this is just a better play. You just, I mean, he check called the flop, or the pre-flop. He check called the flop. Put the screws to him. When you get people that want to play, he's telling you, like, look, I don't want to play a big pot, I'm just checking. Well, make them play a big pot. That's kind of my philosophy. When people are telling me they don't want to do something, make them do it. And that's kind of, in a nutshell, the secret to poker, honestly. So here at the twos, I'll go ahead and make a bet here. And again, it doesn't have to be huge. He has a smaller stack, so I believe that this is about the right bet size, and we're fortunate enough that he folds. So here at the 8-9 suited, I'll go ahead and open, and here at the Queen-Jack suited, I'll go ahead and actually call. I wouldn't call, except there's a couple of weaker players behind that might get involved, and I wouldn't mind having a hand like Queen-Jack suited in a multi-way pot. If there was nobody behind, and I was just trying to call an under-the-gun razor, well, there would always be someone behind, but if there was nobody behind that I was targeting, I should say, I'd probably be inclined to just fold there. And here I flop a jack. It's not like the greatest spot in the world, but I don't really see any other choice but to just shove it all in, and let's hope we have the best hand. And so we do, actually. So we'll hope it holds up. And it does, so that's a really good thing. Here at the 8-9, I've made a pair on the turn. I'm going to go ahead and call and kind of see what he's got, see what he does on the river. Made trip eights, but unfortunately it was a pretty dirty card. He bets again. I honestly think I can probably get away from it. I think he probably gets scared if he doesn't have a spade there, and I could probably just go ahead and take. He'd probably just check and take the showdown. I am getting like almost 3-1. I mean, it's tough. I mean, I'll just be honest. I don't know what to do. It's close. If I'm confused, then it's probably pretty close. I have 3/8. He made a big bet. What the heck? I'm gonna call. I'm getting almost, like I said, almost 3-1. So that's good there. I don't know why he called that flop there with nothing. But in any event, we're kind of wrapping up our session here, but I want to go through some quick Holdem Manager results. We'll go ahead and get past this pot here, and then we'll go ahead and call it good. So yeah, so basically that's a wrap up on the actual video. Now here's some Holdem Manager results, and as you can see here, I played 154 hands. I ran really hot and making $641. EV adjusted is 447, which means I ran slightly hot from an expectation standpoint when all the money was in. I won $200 more than it's telling me I should have, or approximately $200 more. I played a 37 VPIP and a 34 preflop raise. Now keep in mind, there was a lot of heads up and shorthanded in there, so that's not really a good solid number. The 3-bet is really high, 12%. Typically my 3-bet is somewhere between 7 and 8. 4-bet range, again, 4.9 is really high. It's typically around like 1 or 2 for most people. So, I went to Showdown 33 and won at Showdown 71. Won at Showdown is obviously a good indicator of luck. I'm typically in the mid-50s on win at Showdown, and I'm usually in the low 30s on win to Showdown, which that's that number seemed to converge nicely. So anyway, that I don't. I mean, this is a look into my actual poker tracker. This isn't like the DragTheBar like company version or anything like that. Like, this is mine. These are the numbers I have, so I'll just kind of scroll through them. I'll just be honest with you. I love Holdem Manager. I love all these these tools available to you. However, I play pretty intuitively. I don't really look at this stuff. I mean, I know what my numbers are because I just played so many hands and looked at this so many times, but I don't dwell on this stuff. I think you really want to build reads and become, as much, you want to live, eat, breathe, intuitive poker. You don't want to become a robot. And these stats are a great tool, but they don't replace like logic and reasoning and hard work and intuition and all that stuff. So use it as a tool, but don't it's not the end all be all. So that's kind of a glimpse into my poker tracker there. Again, I don't really even use very many of these numbers. At the end of the day, I tend to just look at how much I won, if at all. So in any event, that's a wrap on this video. I hope you guys enjoyed the video, and I'm really looking forward to making videos for DragTheBar.com, and really enjoy the site. The site's filled with great people. It's just a wonderful company. I can't say enough about the guys. If you're signing up for poker coaching at DragTheBar.com, not only are you getting some incredible coaching, but you are dealing with a company that is of some incredibly high integrity and people that have really strong business ethics, just really good people, and that's why I'm proud to be a part of this site. So anyway, utilize me all you can. Talk to me in the forums. I'm really pumped to be here, and I'm going to make videos here for here on out. So really looking forward to developing a relationship with all you guys here in the forums, and thanks for watching my video.